Love Lost, Part 1, an original spoken word piece by Whitney Brown. I wrote this piece about a year ago, matter of fact, and my dad encouraged me to tell this story. He was with me during a time in my life where I felt the most neglected, the most unheard, and he was the one who encouraged me to use my words to finally bring an end to a lot of pain that I've dealt with in the 25 years at the time that I had been living. And so this piece is really dedicated to my father, Marshall Mitchell. And I appreciate you, Daddy, and I thank you for everything that you've done for me in my life. And though we haven't always been on the right path, the time that I needed you the most, the time where I was left without a voice, you helped me find everything that I needed. And so I love you, and I thank you. The day you went missing is the day it all began, or maybe it can be traced back to the first times of man. Man plus woman were always meant to be, and when moms and dads get married, it's supposed to end happily. But somewhere between Zach's first steps and my first cry, things went down quickly, rather hurriedly. Although too young to remember exactly what took place, I've always been put in the middle and later fell into last place. Man plus woman moved on and eventually new love was found, but in the midst of it all, I got lost, and I became an afterthought. And for me, shortly thereafter, unhealthy relations would soon compound the heartache and pain that was left in your absence. By the age of 2, I had a voice that everyone loved to hear. I was witty and cute, and everyone desired for me to be near. But by 13, that wasn't the case. Family dismissed me, screaming loudly that they never again cared to see my face. I was a wild child, that I can admit, but no one wanted to dig deep or pull back the layers to see what had caused all of it. And now at 25, I've grown to see that there are always two sides to every story. So take a seat and listen as I reveal her story. Let me tell you about the little child that was neglected and ignored and spite, because despite my own person, I reminded Mom of another that she fought years to forget. But that's only the beginning of it. You see, she lost her father in similar ways that I lost mine, and when Daddy left, it reminded her of those hard times, and it nearly made her insane, crazy out of her mind. Press fast forward and let's push forward, because we can't linger too long on the what-ifs of yesterday, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that Daddy leaving her and us behind was the second most traumatic event of her days. Also, they were the first of mine and the beginning of my unhappy times. Weaved in these rhymes is an untold story, and for so long I couldn't articulate God's glory, for my life had been a series of unfortunate events, so much so that I steered away from God's righteous tents. Because I saw so many unholy acts at 3 until beyond 7, I couldn't believe in the merciful God that supposedly sat in heaven. I was made to be a woman before I even knew what it meant to be a girl, unable to escape the trauma when the same man was a constant in my world. You mean to tell me that God sat there watching over and did not intervene when he is the only one to witness the same terror that my young eyes had seen? Unable to speak about what took place, afraid of what would come, I silently suffered for years. Did everything I could to fit in with my peers, not fully understanding the pain. I was consumed by shame, and later on guilt, that for longer than I could imagine I sat silent, afraid of what would come, fearing the moment I told my truth I would become undone. So a decade plus some passed on without a word being spoken, and as time crept away, I believed less and less that my family would believe what happened in my younger days. But let's return to the facts and get back on track, because unfortunately there is more to tell, as my life has always been a reflection of that. By the age of 11, I made a decision to give away what I never truly had, and from then on I continuously made Mom and Stepdad mad. You see, they couldn't understand why I was sexting before texting even grew big, and why I was so comfortable being in cahoots with bad figs. So from doctor to doctor, they searched for excuse after excuse. Treatments for depression, manic, bipolar disorder, prescriptions of medication shoved down in attempts to cure my blues. Never mind the emotional trauma, stress, sexual abuse. They couldn't see that simply my life had never been in order. All they needed to do was listen to my chilling autobiography and look closely at the signs of my life and be parents that would be more open, non-judgmental, and ready to give sound advice. Instead, whoopings and punishments for childish mistakes were the norm. That many days I chose to weather my own storms for fear of being sentenced to 6 months of hard labor in the house. I grew uncomfortable and even less inclined to open my big mouth in fear of what would happen if I filled the gaps in. After years of abuse from within and without, I turned cold and felt like I was just better without a love that I never truly had from mom nor dad. In pain, consumed by anger for longer than I can remember, that they never heard my cries. I was spanked and scolded at 13, even when they read the note where I said I was ready to die. Mom didn't shed a tear. I don't think she even cried. And so, as usual, to protect self, I lied and I lied. Because I hated having the household label as the bad kid. She would often ask, why can't you be more like your brother, when in my heart at the same time I yearned for her to just be like other mothers. The ones who through pain they held their scarred babies instead of sending them to shrinks that made them feel crazy. I grew to hate myself, and for a while I hated her too. I did everything I could that I knew she would disprove, because I had nothing left to prove. No cares left to give, hardly a will to live. I waited anxiously for the day when I would be released, jealous even of those who were already gone and deceased. Years went on and I continued to inflict self-harm, smoking at 13, drinking at 14, popping pills by 15, masking pain that still remained unseen. But today I stand stronger, having gone through the ringer, and I sing my praises loudly to my Lord, even though Mom says that I never really was a singer. So much doubt she placed in my young heart that in fear I always stopped pursuing my dreams before I could even start. I mean, really, I could go on and on and on about what almost tore my life apart. But I'll end here for now, and soon one day I'll pick up my pen and with renewed strength I pray God's favor, grace, and mercy that I'll again restart and tell you the troubles and struggles of a young heart. You don't know my story, the anguish and the guilt that consume me. Grateful I can tell it, for no more shall the shackles condemn me. You don't know my story, for if you did, you would lift up your hands. So just let me tell you, by faith you may as well break out and dance. You don't know my story, but I'm grateful I can tell it. You don't know how my Lord has freed. You don't know my story. You don't know the things that I've come through. You cannot imagine the pain, the trials I've had to endure. You don't know my story. You don't know my story. So just let me tell you. So maybe one day you'll be like me. You don't know my story. Give your life to Christ, just wait and see. So they can know your story. And they can see how God has set you free. Please tell them your story. Please tell them your story. Listen to me. Please tell them your story. Don't let the enemy leave you in defeat. Please just tell your story. Please just tell your story. God can free you from these horrors. Just tell him what you need. Please just tell your story. Please just tell your story.